things that Kevin left out, I have a 80 acres south of town, and I let a few people hunt. It's not a large enough. And I really like for someone to come back and thank me after they hunted. If you hunt on a landowner and go thank him. Buy him a pound of bacon for Thanksgiving or a turkey or something and say, hey, really appreciate it. Your hunting rights will probably be welcome next year. That's the first step. If you don't do it right, you may not have a place to hunt your deer next year. The other steps is processing it right, on down the line to lowest freezer racking. If it's not done correctly, your deer are not going to be good. The field dressing thing, depending on where you're at, what he did is good, but at my little farm down north of Racine, if I shoot a deer, I load it in the back of my truck. I don't do anything to it. I just pick it up, load it in the back of the truck. I take it to the house. I have a falls at the house. I skin the deer out first. Then I field dress it. Then I gut it. Then I take a hose and I hose it down. When you skin it first, you don't get hair all over. But there's a limit. If you're hunting 50 miles north of here and it's going to be 3 or 4 hours before you get to do that, I wouldn't want to leave those entrails in there for a long time. I'd go the way that Brad did there. Okay, Adam, you got anything? Yeah. My son's usually here. He was in an auto accident. And we're going to do just a couple of minutes on taxidermy. When you get a deer and it's bullwinkle and it's the first one, you say, boy, I want to have it mounted. Number one, don't run up and cut his throat. Don't cut a deer's throat anytime anyway, because if that deer is still kicking, still alive, it's dangerous. Usually it's not necessary to bleed them because they will run until their heart quits and they quit bleeding, and maybe internally. Number two, when you field dress this deer and you want it mounted, some of the big problems we have is when you get to the rib cage, stop as they take a knife and they go to chopping on this brisket, there'll be a patch of hair gone right there, and you cannot sew another patch on and match it up. We either cut it off here and it looks terrible to do a short cape, or we have to get another cape to mount your deer. So and treat the cape like you would a package of hamburger. If it's hot, keep it cool somehow. Bring it to some taxidermist, and I don't have to be Scott's, any taxidermist, get it before. Every year we have one, when it comes in, we'll get a hold of it and the hair is slipping on it. There's nothing you can do for that. And some of the processors aren't doing this, and it really gives us problem. If you skin your own deer out, or if you have a deer and you're not sure about skinning it, if we have time at Scott's Taxidermy, bring the whole deer up and we'll skin it for you if you want it mounted. But I tell everybody to leave a roast on it. When we measure that deer for this form, this is a form we put them on. We'll start out and we measure it before we skin it from the end of his nose to the corner of his eye, and then after it's skinned, we measure it right under the chin, and then 3 inches down, and that determines the swell. If you leave us 4 inches there, that way we have a good measurement to get the correct size that your deer was.
And that's what the only thing they're able to do is put it back the way it was. They can't make it bigger. They can't,
Actually,
if you come in and say, I want one with a big neck, he's going to say, well, we're going to go shoot one with a big neck. So.
Actually, to try to make an animal bigger, it will look, if it fits that skin real tight, the hair will lay flat and it'll actually look smaller. We always put them back the size they were. We never try to make them bigger. I used to do that years ago, thinking, and it looked littler because, your old dog, you pick up the hair and you got that much loose hide rolling around, and his hair is fluffed up. If you pull on it, why it lays down flat. And that's the same. Is there any questions on that?
So if you stop here as you're coming up, if you are field dressing it, that means you're gonna have to reach in there
Yeah,
and get the
reach
stuff
in.
out and all that kind of stuff. But that's how you have a good mount that's not cut up to where they have to go back and try to sew it back together, and it's not gonna look the same.
Okay, one of the things that this flavor, these ribs usually are not edible because normally there's very little meat on them anyway. Normally there's a big bullet hole through here and there's a lot of blood in there. If you want these ribs and they're good to eat, and a hatchet will, a hatchet will do the same thing. But you can take that. Whoops.
Thank you.
Well, I had them over good. Got it down against the back.
Let's see.
One last rib.
About like a Gallagher kind of a deal there.
That's a rough one. But anyway, some people like to barbecue these ribs, and that's a good way to get them off. A handsaw will do the same thing, but that cleaver works good on it.
Is there enough meat on there to bother with?
Not very much meat, no. And like I say, you can also bone them out.
Which is typically what we do.
Yeah, and grind it, but there's probably not a half a pound or a pound of meat on the whole bunch of ribs. And so much of the time, they're bloody, like, well, right here is where this deer was a roadkill. In fact, this deer was picked up on the range line in front of Whelan's RV.
Wow.
And I always sweated. Adam's always late about getting a deer. I only got this deer a week or so ago.
And I've only had about 15 calls about roadkill deer since then, so he always worries about it starting in like September. But
It'd be embarrassing for Kevin to have this all rolled up and you all show up and
I'd say
no deer.
see how good he is at improvising.
Hey, Missouri's 15th on the list of the 50 states and most likely to hit a roadkill deer, so you know. I have
Okay.
faith in our numbers.
We're going to start out with the strip.
You gonna talk about the big back strips? I'm gonna take off. The office here has my number if anybody needs it, and if you ever have any questions or need to pass on any information, feel free to give me a call. And if you happen to be hunting somewhere other than the area that I cover, I can get you in touch with whoever you need to talk to.
And Adam, did you tell them that your phone is your home and when to call
Yeah.
you?
Well, we are probably the only law enforcement officers anywhere that have public cell phone numbers. So the phone that I carry, that's the way to get a hold of me. And you know, if it's 3 o'clock in the morning and you got somebody out there spotlighting deer, feel free to give me a call. If it's 3 o'clock in the morning and you can't remember when squirrel season starts, just wait till the sun comes up until you give me a call. So, but yeah, feel free to get the number to whoever it is, a public number, and if I don't answer, just leave a voicemail. I'll get back with you as soon as I can. So, and all of our information, all of the agents' phone numbers and whatnot are in the deer regulations. That's back there on the table. On one of the pages, I don't remember what page it is, but it's got every agent in the state's name and number, so you can get it that way too. Thanks, Don.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you. This is around the rib that we cut off. Usually it's bloody. There's very little. There's a lot of fatty tissue in this. I'll take time and trim it. Of course, in this case, it being bloody, I'd throw it away. But I'll take time and trim the fat out. You don't want to grind the fat. Before I forget, we're gonna. I ideally, you want to try to add, the ground chuck is 20% fat. And it's hard to get fat anymore, guys. You want, if you get beef fat, you want to get kidney soot. Kidney soot is on the inside of the animal, and it will render, if you get the back fat, it'd be cracklings. The kidney soot will render out completely. There's no fat there. But you go to a butcher shop, they don't get it in, it's all trimmed off before they get it. The only way to get it is go to a processing house, and chances are they're grinding it with deer that they process. I have used fat bacon to get to 20% fat. The deer, if you don't, it's like an old cow. It's real lean, or a bull, or a utility animal. A choice animal has, when you look at the steak, there's marbling through it. If you took this chop and you could poke little bits of butter down in there, you'd be doing the same thing as a choice beef would be. And the way the grading is good, choice, and prime. And the good has less fat, choice a little bit more, and the prime is really full of, you can't hardly buy prime beef. But when you grind, just to grind this deer straight, it's going to be so lean that it will be dry and chewy. So some kind of fat. Like I say, I've used fatty bacon. One time, I used to use a pork shoulder, but the breeding on hogs anymore is so lean that there's not that much fat on a pork shoulder. Bacon ends, if you get a 10-pound box of bacon ends, they're about 95% fat. They've got a little bit of smoky taste to them, don't hurt a thing. The last deer I think I did, I couldn't get bacon ends. I wound up getting a couple of hog jaws, which is a jaw, but it's 80 or 90% fat, and it did a good job. So I don't know what to tell you to get to mix with it, but whatever. Fatty bacon, whatever you get. We're going to start out with this front shoulder. And again, this deer had been in the freezer, and it's thawed out, and it is so soft that I don't know whether I'm going to do it very good. Most of this shoulder would be stew meat, ground. But if you really like roast, the little front leg right here. Let's see if I can get a roast. And again, some people say, "Oh, we eat printed all deer roast." Others say we like mostly grind. We make a lot of chili. Well, you could take that and the other side, take the two of them, and we're going to make some roll roast, but take the two of them and roll them and put them together. If I were going to do that, I'd lay some bacon in between there and put the other one on top of it. And you really wouldn't even have to roll it. You could take toothpicks and just stick them together or whatever. But that would make a good little roast. And if you just really like lots and lots of steaks, and this would be tough because this is the front leg. There's more muscle there. We're going to show you how to make steaks, but that would be one of my last choices to make steaks. But if you say, "Oh, I want all the steaks that I can possibly get," that front shoulder would make a few steaks. blade that laid next to the piece that laid right, the little, this little blade like that. If you went into a grocery store and you got a flat iron steak, that's where it's come from, is off of the shoulder blade. It's very small, it wouldn't make, it'd make a little bitty steak, but it has a good flavor. But that's where that flat iron steak comes from. And the rest of that, basically, now, again, this neck has an excellent flavor. That's the loin part that I cut off right there. It run right down. You could take that and like that and tie it and make a roast if you want lots of roast. But stew meat, this would make better stew. It would make better grind. We got something now that's my pet peeve. A lot of people talk about the back straps. And what they're talking about is this piece of loin here. They call it the back strap. In the packing house, the back strap is this little yellow, I think it's a muscle, or it's a nerve ending that goes from the cow's or the animal's brain clear to his heel. If I had a lady that down at Crowder College, I did a seminar, and she told me that this on a person, if you got, it controls the muscles. If you got Lou Gehrig's disease, this was what went foul. But this is very, very tough. You want to take it out. Somebody told me the Indians use these for bow strings. I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised. But this is a back strap. Lay that there where it can be seen. Okay. This is all grind. I'm going to leave this other shoulder just for lack of time. Kevin's going to kick me out of here for long. We're going to work on the good part. And again, any questions, just holler at me.
So what do you call what everyone else calls backstrap? Loin?
Loin. If it were on a beef and it's boned out, it would be the KC strip. On a pork, and we cut it. It's what they make butterfly pork chops out of. If it had a bone in it, it would be the pork chop. On beef, it'd be T-bones. Okay, this is the goodie part. This is the loin, back strap. I used to be spend a lot of time getting this silver off of it. And you can, it's up to you. But this silver, I find, will cook up. It reminds on a roast, on a 7-bone chuck roast, it's like jelly when it's cooked up. So anymore, I don't take it off. Very, very important. When you cut this, or when you cut any of this, cut it straight across the grain. The grain runs this way on this. Cut it right across it. If you get to cutting it at an angle, next thing you know, even on this here, as tender as it is, it'll be so tough you can't eat it. There's your, like on a hog, a butterfly pork chops. Now, Christy, open me up some toothpicks. Because of the being lean, you want to, you won't have to do bacon, but I prefer bacon. This puts some moisture in it. You can take little pieces of beef, just lay on top of there and cook it with it. You can take butter and lay on there and cook it with it. But I'm telling you what, that is a good, that will eat. You put that on the grill and it will be good. I'll do a couple more of these. like to cut them about like I would a thick piece of bacon, like this is a little thicker. If this bacon's thicker than my chop where it hangs over, I'll take some of the lean side of it and cut off, and that goes in the grind. I wouldn't throw it away. It don't hurt to grind a bit. We'll just lay these over there now, so you can get an idea of what we're doing. Now then, these I pulled out of the inside before we were boning it. These are the little tenderloin. Go to a grocery store and they're filet mignon. I've cut this crooked, it's setting like that. I'm going, as good as they are, I'm going to cut this little piece off and throw it in the grind. And now it's going to be cut straight across. Right. Even the grain on this runs this way. So I'll butterfly them just a little thicker. And on the little end of it, I may put 2 pieces on it. Got cut right there, make a bulldog break his chain. Okay, I'm going to just put this tenderloin, set it over there so they can see how it's done. There's so much you can do with these loins. And again, it's the part that you will use if you like roast, you want a special roast. This bacon. A couple pieces right there. That's all right. You know, this is not doing much good because what I'm doing here, putting this bacon inside to cook it. And this piece here just happens to be the right size. Normally, I'm not going to, but normally, not only would I put bacon inside it, I'll lay bacon around here. Now, after this, we get through, anybody that wants to come up and let me help them tie this knot, they're welcome to do it. This is a knot I like to never learn how to tie it when I was an apprentice. But literally you take your finger, twist it like that, and poke the string through it. And pull it down until it pops. Ain't gonna pop on this one. It will on the next time I tie it. Just come around and on this side I just tie, yeah, I'm gonna cut my finger. This is a roast that you can have when you have special company. You put it on a rotisserie. This will be the best roast you'll get off of it. Of course, you're talking about some high, if you went into a grocery store and bought it off of a pig or off of a beef, you're talking some, I don't even know anymore, several dollars a pound. Y'all off quiet tonight. That looks a lot.
Just in awe of you, Don.
That looks a lot better when I put bacon on the outside. I don't know why I didn't do it, but well, it's just a little bit warm and it's really hard to tie with this much easier to work with if the animal was a little colder and it firmed up a lot more. There is a nice roast.
There's a special kind of tie that you use too, isn't it?
Mhm.
Pure cotton.
Yeah, this is cotton thread. You could probably go to, the Tractor Supply and just get a roll of cotton. I bought this from Koch. It's a meat regular. This is what the butchers use to wrap with. But don't get nylon or anything like that that would melt down whenever you cooked it. It'd ruin the roast. Okay, we went down to this hind leg. This is the knee joint, and again, there's a seam there. I just cut the seam out, and all you can do with this basically is stew it or grind it. It's a knee joint, and that knee is got sinew all through it, and it would be very, very tough. Again, these little these seams that just show the butcher where to cut at. You all see that seam right there? See how I'm going right down that, just separating the, good Lord drew us a line where to cut. This particular cut here is soft and it's hard to work with. This is the sirloin tip. It is this part of the round. It is a tender cut. This is one of the things that Adam really likes to make kebab meat out of. This is his favorite kebab meat. But I want to cut this piece here off and get it where I'm cutting it straight. Don't be afraid to throw a little bit and grind. Don't try to think, well, I can cut this and I can get it at the right angle. Next thing you know, it's tough. Probably one of my favorite cuts of meat on this, and my wife can do a number on this that won't quit, is I like this and I butterfly it. I'll cut it about 1 inch thick. I can't tell you how to do it, she can. Somehow she'll put it in a skillet and brown it. You want to tell them?
Any recipe for Swiss steak you can use, but I use tomato sauce or tomato juice over it and onions, season it. You want to brown it just a little bit first or sear it in the skillet and then cook it slow with the tomato sauce over
Man,
it.
you cut that with a fork and that is, when she gets through with that, it shows obvious. I can eat my weight in it, but it is good.
There's just not enough of them in a deer.
Yeah, well, the sirloin tip is good. The sirloin tip, it's a tender. You can make a roast out of it. If I make a roast, I like to roll it and wrap bacon over it. Somebody was picking on me and said, "You put bacon on everything." Yeah, just about it. Because anything that will pick up moisture and make it tender. If you're grilling some of this, that cut there, it wouldn't hurt if you had it on the grill to open the grill up once in a while and baste it with butter or baste it with something to give it some moisture that would give it flavor. I'm lost for words, but Worcestershire sauce or any kind of seasoning. Okay.
I think with the steaks, what I was taught years ago is the searing. Sear it quick, get it hot, whether it be cast iron skillet or whatever, put some butter in there, sear it, and then, like you said, turn it down, and then, yeah, but otherwise you're gonna have dry meat.
this is the deer's leg, the top sirloin, I'm trying to hold it just like it would, it starts down its back at that angle right there. The top sirloin on a deer is so, got so much sinew in it that, oh, you can make stew out of it. It's hard to make a good steak out of it. I usually throw it in the grind, depending how bad you want steaks. Then on this leg, again, I'm going to separate it. You actually, if I had before, I've split it open, put fat in there of some kind, laid fat over it, and rolled it and made a roast like this. This is, if you want to serve a big family for Thanksgiving or something, very good. Put plenty of moisture in it. One of the things that you want to look for before you do anything with it, and this really has a small gland in it. There's 4 glands that you'll find in that deer. This one is so small, usually they're twice that big. It's right in here in the leg, on each leg, and there's one on each side of the neck. I didn't dig that one out on the other one, but it won't hurt you to eat them. Don't look good. I don't eat them. I cut them out and throw them away. I'm sure that in the packing house, when they trim up beef, this goes in the grind. You've ate a lot of them. But the point I'm making, if you cut into it and you see it and it looks, well, that looks kind of like a tumor or something. The deer, it's all right. There's one on each leg and one on each side of his neck. Again, I'm doing a seam. It just falls apart right there where that seam is. This part here is the inside of the leg. Pinch the inside and it hurts. Pinch the outside and it don't. This is the tenderest part of the leg. Adam makes kebabs out of it. It'll make good Swiss steak. Another thing that I left out on it, and we haven't did it for a year or two, but you can cut this thin for stir fry. It's real good. We've had that stir fry. Yeah, it's good. This is a rather tough cut in the grocery store, and I usually leave it with the bottom round, and it's the eye of the round, which lays right on the next to the outside of the bottom round, it's called. And this is a very tough cut piece of meat here. At our house, we grind it. You could make stew out of it, but unless you were just real hungry for a roast, or unless you made the whole thing into a roast, I'd grind it. Now, again, it's very important when you cut this piece of round, I would cut off a little piece like this and get that, you can see the grain, see how it lays there, get it where you're cutting it straight across the grain. If you get to running this way, you're going to run with the grain and you're going to have a tough cut of meat. Okay. Basically, that's one of the other recipes that we use, and I really recommend that trying this, is take 6 pounds of ground venison, 3 eggs, a can of Parmesan cheese, mix them all up together real good, lay it out on a block and roll it in a tight roll, and then take your knife and just cut it into pieces like this and wrap a piece of bacon around each one of them. I have not talked to anybody that hadn't raved about deer Parmesan.
For people that don't know that they're eating venison, they don't know.
They won't know that they're eating that Parmesan, and all that really does a number. I think we're ready for Lois to do a little bit of wrapping, Kevin.
Yep, that's great. One thing I was going to add, you mentioned that people don't know what they're eating. same thing. I've got some friends and family that don't like game, but you can take, and Don's alluded to the kebabs. Well, the kebab recipe is very easy.
I didn't tell them about that. Go ahead.
And you can do it, and we all have a little different way of doing it, but I like to use a marinade, usually zesty Italian dressing. Just take your chunks, your kebab chunks, put them in a 1 gallon Ziploc baggie or whatever, pour on some zesty Italian, refrigerate it, usually overnight, then take them, have your skewers, make sure you soak those skewers in water so they don't burn up on the grill. Some folks like to take peppers, other things from the garden, but take that little chunk of meat, take a little piece of bacon, usually with a package of bacon, you can cut it where you get 3 pieces, and you'll take one of those, wrap it around, but if you like a little bit of flavor, and even if you don't like the hotness, take a jalapeno pepper or any kind of pepper that you like out of your garden, put that right there on the chunk, and then wrap that bacon around it, then stick it on your skewer. Then in between them, you can put your vegetables, your squash, whatever you want on there, and then line that up. If you don't want the fat of the bacon, put it on the grill, cook it till it's nice and crispy, till that bacon's done. Pull that off, and the meat will be delicious. But if you don't want the fat of the bacon, or if you don't want the actual jalapeno pepper, the seeds, you can pull that off, but the meat still has that good, moist flavor. It's very good. Another thing that I like to do to them is put a little bit of seasoning on them while they're cooking on the grill. I love Cavender's seasoning. It's a Greek-style seasoning that they have at the grocery store. You just put that on there, and that's the favorite way that I like it.
It'd be good on roast too.
Yeah, and I take that to people, and like the TV crew, I took it and prepared that for a TV show, and they basically chased me out the door because I ran out of meat. But they were eating that, and they could not believe, because I hear the same thing that Don always said. I don't like, venison. I don't like gamey taste. And that tastes, I think it tastes like filet mignon. It is so good. I do that same recipe with my diving duck breast and my big Canada geese breast. And you do that same thing, and because geese and some waterfowl have a little bit of wild taste to them, same thing, and they swear they're eating beef.
Give
Make
thanks for
kebabs
that.
What's that?
Yeah, the geese make kebabs.
Make kebabs, yeah. It's good stuff. All right, Lois will show you how to keep your meat fresh for the freezer.
I'll wake up in the middle of the night. Thanks for bringing that up. I forgot. I'll wake up in the middle of the night. Why didn't I tell them that? There is so much to this. If I remembered it all, you'd be here till morning. They're just, I've just hit the high spots.
Hey, I don't get to work tomorrow.
This is the last step, and it's as important or more so. If this doesn't hold up, if it freezer burns, it won't hurt you, but you won't like it. It dehydrates. All your freezers are frost-free. They're designed to pull the moisture out. That's why they need to be wrapped properly. And some of these new vacuum seal things are good. I don't have anything against it. If you can do a good job with it, why, that's good. Okay, I'm
The
good.
thing about the vacuum seal, I prefer to freeze the meat first and then put it in the vacuum seal. To me, it doesn't work as well if the meat's soft, but that's your choice. You can do what you want with that. But we prefer the freezer paper, and you can get this at most any grocery store. And you have a slick side and a not slick side. So be sure and put your meat against the side that's slick. And what we usually do, I'm gonna do a couple of these,
Be sure it's freezer paper, not just
right,
white paper. It's wax
Freezer.
line.
paper. And Reynolds is the one, I don't know of any others around, there could be. Reynolds is the one that makes the most. And you can get it in this is a 75-foot roll, you can get a 150-foot roll. But you cut off.
Leave one of these out with the bacon around so they come
Okay.
up and see it. We're not gonna wrap.
You want to
very
wrap
large, but
according to the size of your family, what size servings you want. For us, we use 2, so I do 2 chops here. I take the corner and come over this. Now, if I have a toothpick in here, I'll turn these against them, because you don't want that toothpick coming through your paper. Turn the corner, wrap your corners over this right here, over, and then you turn this other second wrap around. You want a second wrapping over it. do the same thing, and that gives you a double wrap to keep the air out. You don't want air to get through that. And keep it as tight as you very possibly can, and then I seal it with a piece of freezer tape. Not masking tape, freezer tape.
And if, when you're wrapping this, good, probably. If you can see the light colored meat through that, you don't have enough wrap on there. That's why she double wraps it.
I'm gonna do this little Swiss steak to show you how it can be done too. You don't necessarily, if you have more than, like if you don't have a family of 4 or 5 and you want to put more than 2 in it, you can take 2 of these and put them down and then put wax paper or something between them and then stack them and wrap them some more. Now like this Swiss steak, I'm gonna throw it over here like that. Come over and wrap it as tight as you can, but you go from the corners so that you keep your paper tight. Come over like that. And then what I find is easy to do, just flip that around like that. Do the opposite direction for your second wrap. Go over it like that. And it's, to me, taking your thumb and getting this tight here is easy. I find some people just don't know how to do it. They fight it. So to me, that's real simple. And you get that a tight wrap, then put your tape over it. That's very simple to do, and it keeps that meat for months and
Where's your magic
year
mark?
long.
You tell me about that.
There
There it is, right there.
Yes. The most important thing to do is write on here what is in the package and your date. Now, I think the Conservation Department wants us to put a number on there of your check-in number. To me, that's pretty hard to do.
I'm gonna tell you that that's what the regulation is, you know, name, you know, all that, your check-in number, and have what it, you don't have to, we don't care if you put pork chop, back loin, whatever it is, but we want your name, the date, and your conservation number. Especially important, we're not gonna come into your house and say, excuse me, I need to check your freezer. Usually there's another game violation that goes along with that gets us into that position. Because usually with one game violation, there's multiple. But if Dawn and Lois were to receive meat from me, or if I was going to receive meat from them, that is where it's very important. And you want to make sure that you have the date, the name, and the tag or the conservation number on that meat, especially if you're giving it to someone. So one thing that Don brought up is if he were to let me hunt on his land, and then as a way to show appreciation, if I took him a couple of Swiss steaks or something, I would want to make sure that I had my information on there and give that to him for the privilege of hunting on his land. Just make sure anytime that you're doing that, that your information is on the meat, because you don't want to cause any issues if something were to rise. But chances are, I mean, no one's going to come and knocking on your door to check your freezer, but if we do run into fishing or hunting violations, typically there's multiple ones and people have hoarded stuff in their freezer, so that's where that comes from.
If you want to follow the rules, put your name, the item, the date, the hunter's name. I'm putting Don's on there. I made up a number for the confirmation number.
What if I called the sheriff department? I had a big buck off our property, was hit out in the road. I watched him get hit. And we just called the sheriff's department and said, I've got him, can I pick him up? And he said, yes, I won't have a number.
Well, technically, he'll say yes, and then he should tell you that you need to get a disposition form from the Conservation Department to be legal. So,
That's what Adam gives us on these.
right.
When I pick it up off the road.
So if you witness an accident, or someone that you know, or you yourself did it, if you want that deer, then 99% of the time, yeah, the Conservation Department is going to allow you to have that animal. It's just you need to make sure, and if it's something that you hit it and it just did minimal damage or whatever, as long as you take the time to call I mean, and if it's 2 o'clock in the morning, like you don't have to call him over a hit deer as long as you make the effort the next morning. But, you know, once it gets 2, 3, you know, a couple days, and that's where issues come around. So, yeah, the first thing that you need to do is just make sure that you contact a conservation agent or call us if it's in normal business hours, and we can get you the disposition form so you can process that either yourself or if.
I don't think the processor will take it unless it has
A disposition form, yep.
The conservation, the guys are really good in this state about giving those permits. They tell me in Oklahoma, before you can pick up a roadkill, you have to go get a permit to pick it up. And it's probably gone before you get the permit.
Another thing I wanted to ask too, the conservation department has this tag that you put on the deer, you put on for a confirmation number. When you take it to a processor,
Yeah.
they sometimes will take that tag off. If they do, get that number off of that, write it down or whatever, and bring it to us. If we're gonna have it mounted, we need that number as well. They should have two stips on there, or they should say, the processors only write down the number and leave it on the deer.
Right.
But they bring that deer from the processor to us, and it doesn't have a tag number on it. That's illegal.
Yep, so you need to make sure you've got your conservation ID number, and then now with the telecheck, you're gonna get a telecheck number, and you're gonna write that down on the permit. So it's always good to have that, but then I am always one of those that tries to make a couple copies of things, so I make sure that I always have my conservation number, whether it's my heritage card that I have, or, you know, I have it written down, and then I also always have that check-in number with me as well, so in case there's an issue. And if for some reason, always caution, you know, and call us and, you know, say, hey, this is what happened, I've got my conservation number, what do I need to do? And because we don't want to get the taxidermist in trouble, we don't want to get the processor in trouble, or you. So we want to make sure that if you're trying to follow the rules, and again, the agents in our area are great, and I mean, if there's no questions, I mean, everything's dotted and everything, that's great. If there's a little bit of discrepancy, that's when they start asking questions. There's usually more something there. But if it's honestly something like that, we'll just get it taken care of and go forward. So, any other questions for Don, Lois, myself? Well, again, I appreciate you all taking the time out of your schedules to come and do this. I want to get a big round of applause for Don and Lois. Adam mentioned, I do want to echo it. Don and Lois are very humble, very gracious with their time. Not only do they donate their time and a lot of their efforts and monetary resources to doing this, but they also always are providing us with extra stuff and, you know, go just a mile out of their way because their love for the outdoors. And another thing is Don and Lois actually won the first Conservation Partnership Award the Conservation Department gave away, and we had a special ceremony for him. So they've been partners with us for many years, and they're always so gracious to help us out. So again, I appreciate mentorship and the leadership that he provides. And anytime you want to go see him, shop's just right up the street. Except,
if you have a problem, call me.
call him, except he likes to fish just a little bit. So,
and deer season, I'm busy a lot of times. I don't have time, but I will take time and talk to you, whatever. And come up and check this out here before you leave.
We decided to go to Roaring River this morning. We was gone half a day. Came home and had about 6 messages on the answer machine. So, you know.
very busy, but very
Call us.
gracious with their time. So we appreciate it greatly if you guys come out. Thanks again.
If you want a card, there's some cards here for you. If you're interested, we're not begging for work. We got plenty, but we'll be glad to accommodate you.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Again, if you have any questions, please help yourself to that information or give us a call. Thank you.